I'm 15, sitting in a dusty classroom, my stomach growling so loud I'm sure the whole room can hear it. My classmates are munching on chips, laughing, while I clutch my empty lunchbox, pretending I'm fine. My family could barely afford food, and the kids at school? They mocked me for it. Especially one girl, Lindsay. She'd wave her fancy sandwiches in my face and sneer, "What's wrong, can't afford lunch?" Fast forward 10 years, and I made sure Lindsay regretted every single word. This is my story, and trust me, the ending is so satisfying. Hey everyone, I'm Sarah, a 28-year-old entrepreneur from Chicago. I built a business from nothing, but it wasn't easy. Today, I'm sharing my real-life story of struggle, betrayal, and the sweetest revenge you'll ever hear. If you've ever been underestimated or disrespected, hit that like button, subscribe, and let's dive into a story that'll leave you cheering. I grew up in a cramped apartment in a rough part of Chicago. The walls were paper thin, and the smell of grease from the diner downstairs clung to everything. My dad worked construction by day and drove a delivery truck at night. His hands were always calloused, his eyes heavy with exhaustion. My mom sewed clothes at home, her fingers pricked raw from endless hours at the machine. We were a family of 5, but there was never enough money for food, let alone anything else. I wore hand-me-downs 2 sizes too big, and my shoes had holes I patched with duct tape. School was my escape, but it came with its own kind of pain. I was the kid who never had lunch. I'd sit at the edge of the cafeteria, pretending to read, while my stomach twisted into knots. My classmates weren't all cruel, but one girl, Lindsay, was relentless. She was the queen bee. Perfect hair, designer clothes, and a smirk that could cut glass. She'd saunter over with her clique, holding a shiny red apple or a bag of chips, and say things like, "Wow, Sarah, don't you ever eat? Or do you just like starving?" Her friends would giggle, and I'd feel my face burn, my hands clenching under the table. I wanted to scream, but I didn't. I just swallowed the shame. At 15, things got worse. Dad got injured on the job, and Mom's sewing machine broke. We were eating plain rice for weeks. I told my parents I was dropping out to get a job. I couldn't watch them suffer anymore. But my English teacher, Ms. Carter, pulled me aside one day. Her glasses slid down her nose as she said, "Sarah, you're too smart to give up. Apply for scholarships. Fight for your future." I didn't believe her, but her words stuck. I spent nights filling out applications, my hands shaking from hunger and hope. Lindsay's cruelty didn't stop. In high school, she spread rumors that I was stealing food from the cafeteria. Once, she accidentally spilled her soda on my homework, laughing as I scrambled to save the soggy pages. "Oops," she said, her voice dripping with fake innocence. "Guess you'll have to rewrite it." Oh wait, can you even afford paper? I'd go home and cry into my pillow, my chest tight with rage and powerlessness. I wanted to fight back, but what could I do? She had everything: money, status, confidence. I had nothing but a stubborn streak and a dream I barely believed in. By senior year, I'd won a full scholarship to a state university. It was my lifeline, but even that wasn't enough for Lindsay. At graduation, she cornered me in the hallway, her manicured nails tapping her phone. "College? You?" she scoffed. "You'll drop out in a month. People like you don't belong there." Her words hit like a punch. I stood there, my cap and gown feeling like a costume, and I swore to myself, I'll prove her wrong. I'll make her eat those words. College was brutal. I worked 2 part-time jobs while taking a full course load. I studied in the library until it closed, my eyes burning, my stomach still empty half the time. But I graduated at 25, the first in my family, with a degree in computer science. I landed a job at a small tech startup, but the pay was barely enough to cover rent. My boss, Greg, was another Lindsay, arrogant, dismissive, always quick to remind me I was lucky to have a job. When I asked for a raise after a year of killing myself for the company, he laughed. Actually laughed. "Sarah, be realistic," he said, leaning back in his chair. "You're not exactly executive material." My blood boiled. I felt that same powerless rage from high school, but this time, something snapped. I wasn't a kid anymore. I wasn't going to let people like Greg or Lindsay walk over me. That night, I sat in my tiny apartment, the hum of the fridge filling the silence. My laptop glowed in the dark, and an idea hit me. I'd start my own tech company. I'd always been good at coding, and I'd noticed a gap in the market for affordable, user-friendly apps for small business. I spent months researching, saving every penny, and teaching myself new skills. My hands shook as I typed out my business plan, my heart racing with equal parts fear and determination. This is it, I thought. This is how I take control. I quit my job and poured everything into my startup. I worked 18-hour days, fueled by cheap coffee and spite. I hired a small team of misfits like me, people who'd been underestimated their whole lives. We built an app that streamlined inventory management for small retailers. It was simple, effective, and cheap. Within a year, we had 500 clients. By year 2, we'd raised $5 million in funding. By year 3, my company was valued at $50 million. I'd done it. I'd built something from nothing. But the real revenge? That came later. Lindsay, it turned out, had married into money and was running a boutique chain. Her stores were struggling, and she was desperate for tech solutions to stay afloat. Guess who she called? My company. I'll never forget the day she walked into my office for a consultation, her face all smiles until she saw me behind the desk. Her jaw dropped, her eyes wide with shock. "Sarah," she stammered, "you're the CEO?" I leaned forward, my voice calm but sharp. "That's right, Lindsay. Funny how things turn out, isn't it?" I didn't gloat, not outwardly. But inside, I was screaming with triumph. We signed her as a client, but I made sure the contract included a clause. If her stores didn't adopt our app fully, we'd pull support. She complied, of course. She had no choice. Every time she used my app, she was reminded of me, the girl she'd mocked, now holding her business in my hands. Greg got his, too. My company outgrew his startup, and when his firm went under, I bought it for pennies. I kept the employees but replaced Greg with someone who actually valued talent. He sent me a desperate email begging for a job. I didn't reply. Sensory details and internal monologue. Every step of this journey was vivid. I can still feel the cold metal of the cafeteria table under my fingers, the way my throat tightened when Lindsay mocked me. I remember the smell of my mom's sewing machine oil, the creak of our apartment floorboards as I paced at night, dreaming of a way out. When I coded my first app, my fingers flew across the keyboard, my heart pounding like I was running a race. This has to work, I'd think. It has to. The day Lindsay walked into my office, I could smell her expensive perfume, but it didn't intimidate me anymore. I felt my shoulders relax, my spine straighten. I was in control now. Here's how it went down with Lindsay. Lindsay had a nervous laugh. "Sarah, I didn't know you. Wow. You've done well." I smiled tightly and said, "Hard work pays off. You'd be surprised what people like me can do." Lindsay, fidgeting, I didn't mean anything back then. Just kid stuff, you know? Me, leaning forward, kid stuff? Maybe, but I never forgot it. "Let's talk business." Greg said, "Sarah, you can't be serious about this raise. You're replaceable." I said, "We'll see about that." The moment with Lindsay was pure gold. Her face went from smug to pale as she realized who I was. Her hands fidgeted with her designer purse, her voice shaky as she tried to play nice. I didn't yell or rub it in her face. I didn't need to. The power shift was enough. She signed the contract, her signature wobbly on the page. Every time her stores used my app, I knew she'd see my company's logo and remember. The girl she called worthless was now calling the shots. Greg's downfall was quieter but just as sweet. When I bought his company, I walked through its empty offices, the smell of stale coffee lingering in the air. His old desk was still there, covered in dust. I sat in his chair, my fingers brushing the armrests, and let myself feel it. Triumph. Relief. Validation. I'd spent years feeling small, but now? I was unstoppable. Looking back, this wasn't just about revenge. It was about proving to myself, and the world, that I was more than my circumstances. Lindsay and Greg thought they could define me, but they were wrong. Karma has a way of balancing the scales, doesn't it? I learned that hard work, grit, and a little bit of spite can take you far. But more than that, I learned to believe in myself, even when no one else did. If this story gave you chills, smash that like button and tell us in the comments. What's the most satisfying revenge you've ever witnessed? Or maybe you've got your own story of proving the haters wrong. Share it. Subscribe for more real-life stories that'll make you laugh, cry, and cheer. Hit that notification bell so you don't miss the next one. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.